The Baltimore Ravens saw Jamal Adams go off the board to the Tennessee Titans on Thursday. That opens up the door for them to sign Justin Simmons potentially. Should they do it? Will they do it? We talk about that and so much more coming up next year on Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Ostreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for being here, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day and your first listen each and every day. We're free and available on all podcasting platforms. So in video form on YouTube, if you like watching our content, you can like and subscribe over on YouTube. If you prefer the audio version just to listen, you can subscribe and follow along anywhere you get your favorite podcast, Apple, Spotify, the whole 9 yards over there. We're 5 days a week of Ravens content here. Plus, we do bonus episodes, live shows after every Ravens game, and after every piece of Ravens big news. So be sure to keep it locked on here on Locked On Ravens for your daily Baltimore Ravens coverage. Today's episode of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code Locked On NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. We are so close. We are so close to training camp. Rookies report tomorrow. They report tomorrow. We've almost made it. We've almost done it. It's been a long offseason, one with not much going on for the Ravens. Obviously, the Derrick Henry signing was exciting. The draft was exciting. But other than that, there really hasn't been a ton going on. So we are just waiting, and we have almost made it. Time is recording about 24 or so-ish hours for rookies report. And then obviously the vets come in on the 20th. But we have lots to dive into today. On today's show, I'll be talking about Jamal Adams not being a member of the Ravens. He was signed by the Tennessee Titans, but that opens the door potentially for the Ravens to go out there and sign Justin Simmons or another free agent safety. We'll talk about that door being open. Should they sign a safety, particularly Simmons? Will they do it? We'll revisit that conversation as well. Then with rookie training camp coming up, we will talk about some players to watch, some positional battles with rookies involved. And depending on what happens, I might have a bonus episode out tomorrow on Saturday just talking about the rookies reporting. I don't know how that's going to go. I just don't know. Maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't, but I just want to put it in everybody's minds that there could be a bonus episode tomorrow of the show, just depending on how the whole rookie thing works and how that goes. Could even be one on Sunday. I don't know how the weekend's going to play out with the rookies reporting on a Saturday, but we will see. And then we will talk about some general Ravens stuff. Lamar actually won an ESPY for a play that I didn't think was going to win an ESPY. So we'll talk about that in the final part of the show. Just some other general Ravens stuff in that segment as well. So let's get into it. Jamal Adams signed with the Tennessee Titans. At the time of this recording, I don't think the specifics of the deal have actually been released. At least I haven't seen them. I don't think they've been out there, but I wouldn't expect it to be for too much. But with him off of the board, obviously we know the Ravens had him in for a visit last month, and it was a move that I wasn't really in love with, to be honest. The fit in Baltimore, on the field, off of the field, it didn't feel like a Baltimore Ravens signing to me. The Ravens, if they want safety depth, I've said this a lot, they need to replace Geno Stone. Jamal Adams in his skill set would not be replacing Geno Stone. Stone is someone who can play in single high, split field safety. I mean, you can do a lot with him, roaming around the field and whatnot, but more so, he'd be the quote-unquote Marcus Williams replacement. Jamal Adams would be the Kyle Hamilton replacement. And at this point, it's unfortunate, but Marcus Williams has been the more injury-prone out of the two of Hamilton and Williams. Both of them are healthy. That's great. That's what we want. We want them to be healthy. But in the event that something happens, because this is football and injuries do happen, unfortunately. I mean, we saw what Stone did for the past 2 seasons, filling in for Marcus Williams. There could have been a huge drop-off, but there wasn't because Geno Stone played really, really well. Now, the conversation for Simmons in particular, it's one that, look, I would love Justin Simmons in Baltimore. He would be incredible. I mean, imagine Kyle Hamilton, Marcus Williams, Justin Simmons. That is the best safety trio in the league. It's not even close. And it would just, you have so many options you can use those three guys in. The NFL is shifting into more three safety looks, shifting into more multiple defensive back packages. I think there could be a role for Simmons. Now, the issue is that Simmons is still really good. And you're like, well, how's that an issue? Well, the issue is that he wants to start. And the issue is that he wants a big role. And the issue is that he wants to get paid. And I don't know if Baltimore can offer any of that outside of a decent amount of playing time. But, I mean, he's not – at the end of the day, it's going to be Williams and Hamilton. If you're putting two safeties on the field, it'll be those guys. You don't run three safety looks all the time if you're a defense. And Simmons is still a talented enough player to go out there and produce. He has accolades. He's somebody that is experienced. Obviously, he has the connection everybody puts together is he has success against the Chiefs. I think he has 4 or 6 interceptions against Mahomes in his career, the Chiefs in his career, which, look, when you're talking about getting over the hump and beating the Chiefs, having a guy like that on your team who played him twice a year in Denver every single season, that certainly helps you. But he's a player that I don't know if it's realistic. I would love it, but I don't think it's very realistic for them to do that. Plus, look, we've seen them hype up Ardarius Washington a ton this offseason. And this is what I've been talking about. This goes into the theme of the offseason that I have been trying to get people on this train of this is what they're trying to push to everybody is this is the year of the young guys, the year of the replacement plans, of the promotions. And for Ardarius Washington, it feels like that's what they're going to go with. I wouldn't be shocked if they signed a vet safety, but I also wouldn't be shocked if they didn't sign a vet safety. I've been pretty adamant about them adding somebody, and I'm sticking to that stance. I'm not backing down from that. But we know that Geno Stone was a 7th rounder, not widely known, and he ended up going out there in 2 years, produced really, really well. I'm sure they feel some level of that with Ardarius Washington, who, by the way, is a very talented player and deserves a role. But even if it's an Eddie Jackson, Micah Hyde, Jaron Kearse, who spent time with the Ravens a couple years ago, a vet safety would help. It would, but I just don't think this is not last offseason. Eric DeCosta last offseason was wheeling and dealing with free agents, bringing in all these vets, trying to plug stopgap holes, whatever it may be. But this year, I think they just want to see what they have in their young players. The Adams signing does open the door for Simmons in a way, right? Adams is no longer on the board, and I think what they were doing with Adams is they brought him in for a visit, felt things out, and then maybe they said to him, look, if we need you at some point down the line during the season and you're still available, we'll give you a call. But obviously these guys, the preference is to get a deal done before camp, before the season starts. And for some players, sometimes it is the Des Bryant route where you got to wait a little bit in season before you find a role or an offer that you want. But it never really made sense to me, the Adams thing. And honestly, I'm kind of glad the door is shut on that because, like, we would have talked about it, and I would have said the same thing if he signed with Baltimore. I would have said it could work, but the fit on paper isn't great unless they plan on using a dime backer. You still could do that, but I think they want to see what Trenton Simpson has, and they want to give him a role. Where for Adams, he's not a single high safety. That's not what he is. Simmons plays a little more to the style the Ravens need. He's not that perfect player in terms of he's the exact fit, but he's a much better fit than Jamal Adams. You have other guys as well, as I mentioned, Jackson, Hyde, Kearse, whoever you want to mention. Quandre Diggs is still out there as well. They have safety options. If they wanted to bring in a guy, they could. And the offseason is not over. We still have about 2 months before the season starts. It's a lot of time to bring in people. But as training camp continues to get closer here and as it gets underway and as we get closer and closer to the season, I think what we will probably see, and this is my prediction, is maybe one more vet signing. I don't even know if it's going to be a big vet signing. And then I think they're just going to go with what they have. They're going to figure out which guys can step up. And that route is risky for a contending team. I've said that over and over again. If you're an everyday, you're probably sick of me saying that because I've said it so often. But it's true. It's true. That route is an extremely dangerous one for a contending team. It's high risk, high reward, where there is certainly a light at the end of the tunnel there. It can certainly pay off. But while it is likely for a lot of guys to step up for them, it is also likely that 100% of the guys don't pan out. And then you're kind of wondering. And maybe that's what the trade deadline is for. And in-season acquisition, we know Eric DeCosta loves to do that. But I wouldn't expect Simmons to last into the season. I wouldn't expect that. It's tough, though, because Baltimore only has about $5 or $6 million in cap space right now, which they can make more room. If they want to maneuver their cap and do everything, they can do that. But they have been pretty historic about saying we don't want to push all that money down the line. Right? It's not something they love to do. They will do it, but that's not something that they love to do. So I would probably anticipate Simmons not signing in Baltimore. I just don't think the role is there that he wants. I don't think the money is there that he wants. It would be a wonderful partnership, but if it happened, I am still all the way on board for it. Don't get me wrong, but being realistic, it doesn't seem likely. I think a more likely signing would be an Eddie Jackson or a Jaron Curse or a Quandre Diggs, one of those guys. I'm not. I mean, Micah Hyde could be an option too, but I thought I heard rumblings about him retiring earlier on in the offseason. Maybe I just read it wrong, but I don't know. It feels like to me, Simmons, I'd love him to be the answer, but I just don't think it'll happen. I think Baltimore, even if they want to add somebody, other positions, they could add an edge rusher, an offensive lineman, maybe they get crazy and add a wide receiver. Who knows? But I have been banging the table for a safety for a little bit, and we'll see what happens because Baltimore's safety depth right now behind Hamilton and Williams, so Darius Washington, Sanusi Kane, and Bo Braid, which is talented guys, but very inexperienced overall. Coming up in the second part of the show, though, we'll talk a bit about rookie training camp, the preview for the rookies, getting into some positional battles that will involve them. So we got a lot coming up next here on Locked On Ravens. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. First, the show is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience, a formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, whether they're into speed, power, or style. eBay Motors has it covered. With over 122 million parts, number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. All the price needed, the prices you want to see to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible only, exclusions by eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. We're back, our second segment of Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher here with you on this Purple Friday. Hope everybody has a wonderful weekend in store. I know, again, Ricky's report tomorrow, so it'll definitely be football-centric, hopefully, for a lot of people here. Again, potentially doing bonus episodes this weekend, maybe Saturday, maybe Sunday. Don't want to commit to anything right now, but it could happen. So just keep it in the back of your mind that I could be doing some bonus episodes throughout the weekend, covering rookies and them reporting and what's going on throughout there. But of course, we'll have that coverage for you, at the very least, on Monday. So be sure to stay tuned for all of that. We have some awesome guests lined up for next week. And as the offseason continues, as the season gets started, it's really exciting. And also be sure to make Locked On NFL your second listen of the day. Of course, Locked On Ravens, thank you for making us your first listen, but I host Locked On NFL on Mondays, and it's a great group of hosts we have over on that show. We cover all the NFL topics, all the NFL news. So of course, if you want to keep up to date on the Ravens and their opponents, obviously, go check out Locked On NFL. Now, rookies reporting is really exciting. Obviously, a lot of people expect a lot out of this rookie class, where last season, we know Zay did his thing. We know Tavius Robinson had his moments as well. I thought he did a lot better than I expected him to, and he played a much bigger role than I thought he would. But essentially, and this might be a hot take, I'm not necessarily sure, but it feels like the Ravens have two rookie classes coming in this year from 2023 and 2024. Take Zay out of it. I'll leave Tavius Robinson in because obviously Zay did his thing. Tavius Robinson played a role, but for example, guys like Trenton Simpson didn't play a huge role last season in his rookie year. Going to play a huge role this year. Andrew Voorhees didn't play last season. Is expected to win the guard job this season. It feels like a lot of the rookies last year did not really have big roles on this team. But this year, feels like we're getting the insertion of that class alongside their 2024 class. So last year was the year of Zay Flowers. That's what I called it last year, and it rang true. This year, I think it's the year of the 2023 class and the 2024 class, but obviously we're talking rookies, so we're not going to talk Trenton Simpson or any of those guys, even though Andrew Voorhees technically, it's his first season, but he's not necessarily a rookie anymore. But Nate Wiggins is somebody I'm really intrigued with. And we talked with Qadri Ismail, former Ravens receiver and Super Bowl champion, about this yesterday. So if you missed that conversation, be sure to tune in. We talked with Rashad Bateman, Lamar, and a lot of guys in that conversation. But Q talked about Nate Wiggins as somebody who he expects to have a role this season, and I do as well, where it's not going to be he's like starting in the number one corner. That something catastrophic would have to happen for that, and knock on wood, there it is, that he does not have to do that because hopefully everybody stays healthy. But to me, we know that the NFL is moving in the direction, especially offensively, of speed. We know that a lot of these teams have wide receivers and specialists and guys that specialize in being speedy. For example, you want to talk about the Chiefs. They bring in Marquise Brown and his speed. They draft Xavier Worthy and his speed. It's tough to keep up with. So you bring in a speedy corner who has sub 4.3 speed and the recovery speed to where if a guy gets past him, he can recover and either deflect the ball, break it up, intercept it, whatever it may be. I'm not saying Wiggins is going to be a package player or just it's weird because defenses don't really have gadget guys, but it feels like Wiggins would be used in those, okay, you got speedsters on the field, go out there. That's not what I expect Wiggins to do. Obviously, the weight, the frame, that will be some level of an issue in his first year. I expect that to improve as he gets just in an NFL full offseason training program this upcoming offseason, the 2025 offseason. I think there will be some level of him dealing with being overpowered a decent amount at this level in certain roles. Because we know the Ravens love physical defensive backs. And Wiggins is that. Wiggins plays super physical for his frame, right? I think one of the misconceptions about Wiggins is he's not a physical player because of his frame. It's not true. He plays with a chip on his shoulder, plays with an edge to him. He can struggle to tackle at times and get involved in plays, but we're not looking at a Marcus Peters situation where obviously Peters was more slender and had that slighter frame, but Peters didn't want to get involved, right? He would back off of tackles at points and was disinterested in tackling ball carriers and made a bunch of business decisions. Nate Wiggins is not like that. Nate Wiggins tries to get involved. And look, I will take that 10 times out of 10. Obviously, it's not going to lead to a perfect track record and a perfect production level, but he plays hard. And that's one of the things I love about him. Plays with that chip on his shoulder, as I talked about. So I think Wiggins will have a role. The Ravens love 3 cornerback rotations. I've said that over and over again. Now they have Marlon Humphrey, Brandon Stevens, and Nate Wiggins running the show. You know, they ran Marlon Humphrey, Jimmy Smith, and Brandon Carr for a while. They ran Marlon, Marcus Peters, and Jimmy Smith for a while. They love their 3 outside corner rotations, plus you have Millette in the slot. So I do expect Wiggins to play a role that's not just a speed package guy, but he's also not going to be the number 1 corner on the team unless something crazy happens. Now, Roger Rosengarten's entering a really big season, really big rookie season. A lot of expectations placed on his shoulders. Honestly, maybe this is a hot take too. I think Roger Rosengarten might have more expectations at this point than Nate Wiggins, and Roger Rosengarten might be more important to the Ravens than Nate Wiggins is this season, which is no knock to Wiggins because Wiggins is an important piece of that defense. Do not get me wrong on that. But at least as the roster stands right now, I mentioned Humphrey, Stevens, Wiggins. You have guys behind Nate Wiggins here that you trust. Offensive line, Roger Rosengarten is like essentially one of their last lines of defenses right now on that offensive line, and he is a rookie, right? If he does not have a good season, if he starts off slow, if he cannot hold on to that starting job, assuming he wins it, I mean, do you throw Patrick McCary out there? It worked, but McCary has his fair share of injury issues, and he's better in that super sub 6th offensive lineman role. Do you give Daniel Falele that shot? Well, how is he going to look in training camp? Roger Rosengarten has a huge rookie season ahead. And to me, and really not only just to me, you know, there are a bunch of people who agree that Rosengarten is one of the most important rookies this year to their team, where CBS Sports ended up doing an article about the most important rookies to their team in 2024. And they ranked Roger Rosengarten 4th in the entire NFL. 4th in the entire NFL. And Josh Edwards wrote the article. He said, quote, Baltimore likely advertise a training camp battle at right tackle between Daniel Falele, Patrick McCary, and Rosengarten, but won't assume the job is the 2024 second-round selections to lose. Then talked about Ronnie Stanley and Andrew Voorhees, and it's a lot of turnover on that line, which it's true, right? I'm not going to shy away from that. Nobody should. It's going to be a lot of turnover. There are going to be growing pains with this line this season. It's going to happen, but it's about how can these guys gel together throughout the season and how Rosengarten can adapt to the NFL level. So it's going to be important for him to start strong, right? Maybe he won't. You know, he doesn't have to, but it'd be really nice if he could. But it just depends because Rosengarten is someone we know he has the foot speed. He has the athleticism, get out into space really well, but the frame is a little bit of an issue, especially against more power rushers. So we're going to see how that pans out for him. But Rosengarten, a very, very important piece on this Ravens team. And his rookies report, again, when the pads come on, we'll get more takeaways, right? The pads won't come on for a little bit here in training camp. Haven't been on during OTAs and minicamp, obviously, but you get a better feel of stuff, especially on the offensive line, defensively too. Pads tell a story. So these first couple weeks of training camp, we're kind of just going to have to go with the takeaways without pads. But once the pads come on, that's when we really dive into those. But coming up in the final part of the show, we'll continue talking about the rookie class, Tez Walker, TJ Tampa. Should we expect anything from Adisa Isaac? We'll also get into Lamar winning an ESPY again for a play that I don't know should have won an ESPY. So be sure to stay tuned. We'll talk a lot about that next here on Locked On Ravens. We're back. Our final segment of Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher still here with you on this Friday. I appreciate everybody again for being here with me on Locked On Ravens. We just hit 7,000 subscribers on YouTube, and our audio audience continues to grow. Really appreciate everybody who's been a part of this community, whether you're on every day or you listen every single day. If it's your first time in to the show, welcome in. Hopefully you're enjoying the content. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube, or if you're listening in audio form, follow along and subscribe. And if you're somewhere in the middle, welcome back in to the show. We have a lot coming your way as the offseason continues. Training camp, obviously, I mentioned it in the second segment, coverage, guests, live things we're doing, live shows, bonus episodes. We got a lot. Also, new thing we're introducing this year is game day episodes. So 6 a.m. on game days, we will have a game day episode out. Seems like the game day excitement, I want to kind of capture that. So we'll have a bonus game day episode out every single game day this year. I'm not sure we're going to do that for preseason, obviously, but obviously once the regular season hits, then we'll have that. Let's continue our rookie training camp preview. And again, if we do a bonus episode tomorrow, it'll be more of this conversation as well, but not sure how it's going to work yet. Got to really figure out the logistics behind everything. But let's talk about Tez Walker. He's a player that I'm so excited about and so intrigued by. Honestly, he might be the guy I'm looking forward to the most out of this class. Obviously, he's earned rave reviews throughout OTAs and minicamp, and he's not been shy about establishing his presence early on for this Baltimore Ravens offense that needs his skill set really badly. I mean, he does. He's a bigger bodied player that at the end of the day, the Ravens needed that. They needed a bigger body, contested catch player. He's 6'1-ish, 6'2". We'll call him 6'1.5", and weighs around 200-ish pounds. Now, I know at Carolina, he measured in at like 6'2.5", but I think his measurement is 6'1.5". But to me, he's the number 4 receiver off the bat. Obviously, Zay's number 1, Bateman's number 2, Aguilar's number 3. By the end of the season, and this is no shot to Nelson Aguilar at all, but if Tez does his thing, he could end the season as a number 3, or in a crazy world, number 2, where if Bateman doesn't produce or contribute the way that he's expected to this season, maybe Tez could do that. I'm not predicting it, but I'm saying that is a path. That is a world we could live in, where Tez just does his thing. He establishes great chemistry with Lamar, and they use him not only in a skill set role, but this is a 3-level receiver, which he can be. But the Ravens had enough of those guys that could run routes and excel at that, and short intermediate guys who also have that deep speed. They have those guys. Zay is that. Rashad is that. Tez is a guy that you can send on deep routes, can get up there, contest those contested balls. He can go up there and get them. Ravens have needed that out of their wide receiver group. I'm not talking tight ends. They have the tight ends to do that. With Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, Charlie Kohler, they have those guys. I'm talking about the skill set in the wide receiver room. They tried it with Miles Boykin. Miles Boykin was really tall. Really tall. He's like, what, 6'4", 6'5"? I can't even remember anymore. But he was 6'4"-ish, I'm just going to say. Now it's going to bother me. I'm going to look it up quickly. But Miles Boykin was a really tall dude. He's 6'4". I knew it. All right, he's 6'4". He played like he was 5'4". He played small. Tez Walker plays big. Tez Walker plays like he's 6'4", even though he's 6'1". That's what you need. You can be a big receiver, but if you don't play big, you're not doing yourself any favors. Boykin didn't play big. Tez Walker plays big. And that, to me, is what the Ravens have been sorely missing and sorely lacking in that wide receiver room, which is why when we were going over prospects during the draft process back a couple months ago, if you were here with me on Locked On Ravens during the draft process, I had targeted Tez Walker a little bit as a mid-round receiver that would make sense. I saw drafts that had him as high as second round, like late second round on him. Ravens got him at the beginning of the 4th, so about a round and a half-ish difference on that. But I think a lot of people consensus had him as like a late third round guy, early fourth, which the Ravens got him in that range. It was a good value pick. So in my opinion, Tez is a guy that when you talk about ways to unlock this Ravens offense and ways to continue to see it grow, especially in year 2 of Todd Monken's offense, that's the type of thing you want to see. Now, the other part of this is Lamar's deep ball has to be better in these situations. Early on in his career, and we've documented this here, and I think multiple people have. Jonas Schaefer did a great job for the Baltimore Banner doing it. But Lamar's deep ball early in his career was not terrible. He was kind of like a middle-of-the-pack deep ball thrower. Wasn't great, but wasn't awful. These past couple of seasons, Lamar's deep ball has plummeted. He's been a bottom 5 deep ball passer and one of the worst in the league in that area in multiple different metrics. That has to get better. You know, again, we praise Lamar a lot on this show. We give him praise where praise is due, and he deserves a lot of it, right? But criticism also, he does deserve some of it as well. Everybody deserves criticism. No one is safe of criticism. And one of the criticisms of Lamar is his deep ball has not been great over the course of his career, and it's especially been bad over these last couple of seasons. It's not all on Lamar, right? I do want to make that clear. The receivers sometimes drop those balls, and, you know, it's miscommunications and whatnot, but Lamar does play a part in that. So if you're Tez Walker and you're going to be used in the deep game, you got to get that deep ball chemistry with Lamar, something that we've been hoping Rashad Bateman can get with him. And Lamar hopefully will be able to improve on that this season. And, you know, with Tez, maybe having that skill set will help Lamar in that aspect. So that's something I'm intrigued by as well. Now, TJ Tampa is someone who we'll spend a little time on here. He's a guy that you hope that he doesn't have a big role this year because you just don't want guys to get injured. Essentially, the way that he would play really big snaps is if one of the big three, and I'm saying the big three is Marlon, Brandon Stevens, and Nate Wiggins, if one of those three went down. I think TJ Tampa will have a big special teams role. I think he will get in on certain packages, but he's a really talented player that a lot of people had a late second round grade on, early third round grade on. The Ravens got him in the 4th. So that's a guy that I think will make some level of an impact, but I mean, he's one of my favorite players in this class. At least he was one of my favorite players in the class, but I think that ideally he's not going to play a ton, but if he has to, I think he could do some good things. I think he could. The Ravens have a lot of, how do I put it? A lot better depth now. They lost Ronald Darby. They lost Rock Yassim. They add Nate Wiggins and they add TJ Tampa. I've been on record on this show saying that is an upgrade in my opinion, despite how good Darby played for him last year. Darby played really well for him last season. But I do think it is an overall upgrade, adding those 2 rookies in and taking out those 2 vets. So we will see about that. But Tampa, I think, will play a bigger special teams role than anything. I think for Adisa Isaac, we'll touch on him very quickly as well. I don't expect a ton. Honestly, I expect him to be last. I expect him to be a game day inactive, honestly, most weeks, if we're being completely honest here. Kyle Van Noy, Afe Owe, David Ajabo, and Tavius Robinson, I expect to be the 4 actives on game days. I think Adisa Isaac will be a game day inactive most weeks, which is not a bad thing if it happens. I think he's more of a project player anyway at this point in his career. I think he has a lot of potential. Obviously, the pick based off of need was not the biggest in the world, but again, he was someone that was mocked, I saw, in the 2nd round. So the Ravens really valued BPA in this class, but I do think that the way that Tavius Robinson played last season, obviously David Ajabo is going to be required to have a bigger role this season. Owe and Van Noy are not making it actives. So I expect them to keep 5. I expect Isaac to be the 5th, but I wouldn't be shocked if he's a game day inactive most weeks or at least some weeks. Now, we'll also dive into more of that, whether it is on Monday or maybe tomorrow or Sunday on our bonus episodes, talk about more of the other guys in the draft class, some undrafted guys as well. But I did want to quickly touch on the ESPY awards that happened last night. For those who missed it, it happened decently late in the night, so maybe you're waking up to the news. Lamar Jackson won an ESPY. Lamar Jackson won an ESPY. He won the best play ESPY for his self-catch, where the ball was batted up in the air and he caught it and ran for a first down. That was voted the best play of the year in all of sports. The other nominees, I think, were if you had seen it and you're a basketball fan, the Anthony Edwards dunk against the Jazz over John Collins. And then I don't remember the other one. I'm going to try to find it. But I know the Anthony Edwards dunk was one here. The Alabama Hail Mary and Jada Coleman's playoff walk-off. Okay, so Lamar won over those other 3 plays. This was I'm not really sure why this one was nominated, if we're being honest. I mean, it was a great play. Don't get me wrong. This was an incredible play, and I'm happy Lamar won it, and, well deserved, right? But I don't know. I would have honestly, if Lamar had a bet, I'm not even sure this is Lamar's best play of the season. I'm not even sure if it's a top 3 best play of the season. All right, maybe that's a stretch. Maybe I'm getting too far ahead of myself. I think the best play of Lamar's season was the Jacksonville play to Isaiah Likely. That, to me, was incredible. That was a great play. Now, I get the AFC Championship playoff implications, like that whole thing. I think this just brings back the AFC Championship memories for a lot of people. I didn't even know this was nominated for anything. I didn't even know this was going on. I didn't even know Lamar had a play that was nominated for best play. But, I mean, I think it would have been, again, a lot better for everybody if he ran for a touchdown. I mean, that was the ideal play. So, I mean, look, shout out to Lamar. Another accolade, another piece of hardware for him. So, I mean, you got to feel happy for him. It's good on Lamar. But, I think a lot of the general response on social media last night, for those who did miss it, was, why are we talking about this? Now I'm just mad about the AFC Championship game again. Because the play really ended up having very little bearing on the game in general. I mean, I would probably – I'm trying to think of other great Lamar plays last season. I think Jacksonville won that play too. I don't know. But, hey, you know what? Another win for the Ravens. So there you go. We will take it here in Baltimore. And for Lamar, shout out to you for the award. That's all I have for you today, though, on Locked On Ravens. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Coming up, maybe tomorrow, we're still kind of working through whether there'll be a bonus episode, whether it be Saturday, Sunday, or if we'll be back here on Monday. But if there are no bonus episodes, I'll see you back here on Monday. We'll be talking about the rookies. And if there are, I'll see you back here tomorrow or Sunday. So moral of the story, I'll see you back here soon on Locked On Ravens. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you back here soon on Locked On Ravens.